Hi, in this video I'd like to show you the reason why we do the marker underpainting for the colored pencil project. I want to talk about the theory behind it and show you some examples of before and after, why we would put down the marker value first and then the colored pencil over it instead of just using colored pencil. Okay, so there's other videos that I made on application of colored pencil, building it up, specific elements, but I'd like to talk about just in general why we do that. Okay. So the theory behind the way this works is that we're thinking of this value underpainting, which is all done with marker on gray paper, as similar to an underpainting that's done with oil paints. It's also called a grisé. It's a type of a painting that's done indirectly. It's done with values first. If it's done in oils, it's usually done with black and white grays. And then after it dries, colors are glazed over the top of it. Very thin glazes of darker colors and mid-value colors, and then fairly heavily opaque, brighter colors. This is exactly what we're going to do with colored pencils, okay? So the most important thing to do that is to get your values finished before you even pick up the color, okay? So what I've done is I've finished my marker underpainting, my value underpainting for this piece. If I get a chance, I'll do some more, but we're going to focus on this green pot here, okay? So what I've done ahead of that is that I did a value scale. And you have a value scale. I hope you did a value scale for this. And then I did another one and did a different value scale, but I put my colors on top of that value scale. So you can barely maybe you can make it out, but I put, there's gray marker value, 20%, I got the numbers here, 20, 40, 60, 80 in black. And then I put my corresponding colors that I'm going to use on top of those values on top of the marker value. It doesn't make any sense to do a color chart if you're going to do it without the values underneath. So this is a true color chart. I would highly recommend that you do these. So here's my original value scale that I used for this, and so I did something very similar, except I did a longer one, a longer skinny one for this. And this is just for 2 items. This is just for the greens for the pot, and this violet that I used for the drapery. And then I've got all these other ones that I made and I'm going to use for other things. The book, the bone. I already used the copper one. The copper one was right here. Okay, so let's start building up the color. And if the values weren't there, these colors just wouldn't be the same. First thing I want to do is I want to indicate where my highlights are going to be, because I don't want to put any color over the top of that. I'm not going to do intense, really strong ones. So I've got a few little highlights that I want to save. I want to come back in later. I might adjust that with a little color, but they're there. Okay. Now I'm going to start building up color. So my color chart has told me the colors, and I wrote the colors down that I'm going to use. So I'm going to do this top surface. Now what I usually do, and I usually tell my students to do, is start with the lightest color that's in here. Okay, so the lightest color that I've picked out is lime peel. It's almost like a light olive green. And I don't think they have a light olive green, but this will suffice. You try to get as close as possible. Obviously, I've got this set of 72. It's not cheating, it's just that that's what I've got. So maybe you have 36 or 48. It's going to be tough to match all your colors, but you can come pretty close. I'm using circular strokes They seem to blend in really well. I can push down for a little bit more intensity. And I'm not going to leave this alone. I'm going to probably put an olive green over the whole surface. This is brightening it up a lot. I want to probably knock it back a little bit. But like I said, start with the lightest color that's there. I'll probably use 5, maybe 6 colors here. So I can go over that white highlight just a little bit, like that. And it becomes much more natural looking, as if it's reflecting the color of the pot. Wanted to point out another thing that I did that I asked you guys to do is, even though the edge of the pot was lost in shadow on the photograph, it's a really good idea to establish the symmetry so that you can push the background color against the pot or vice versa later. Okay. So there's 2 different sets of greens going on up at the top and towards the bottom here. So I'm only doing the top half at the very beginning. Okay, so that's all I want to do right now with the line peel. So I'm going to go from lighter to darker. So my next one up is olive green. And that's olive green right here. And I'm going to go right over the top of that. See how that looks? If it's still too bright later, I can take a neutral color, or I can take a complementary color, like a reddish brown, and lightly go over that. So this is olive green. I'm using the little circular strokes, and I'm going to put a little bit, at least a glaze, light glaze, over the black that I used on the pot. If I was just making marks like this right now, the way I'm doing, this is what it would look like. Not very strong, but I'm putting it on top of this very dark glaze marker underpainting, and it works just right. So I'll be putting that just about everywhere. This is my second color, olive green. So I'm finishing up with olive green. Started with lime peel, went over all of the lime peel that was here, and all of the green, all of these areas around here with the olive green. So I'll just go right to an indigo blue and a black, and that'll be 4 colors right there. So I think I'm going to avoid that dark green. Maybe I'll use some of it down here, but I'm going to go in with indigo blue first, because that should work pretty well. And if it's too bright, again, I've got black. Black's a color. Let's see what black looks like. This is really, my reference is really dark. And there's another thing that I could do, and I might try that, is to use the indigo blue and then maybe a dark umber on top of that to kind of knock down that bright blue. So there's more than one way to get what you're looking for here. So I've got indigo blue where I want to put it now, and then I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to neutralize it a little bit with a dark umber. I don't want it to be such a strong dark blue. Even if it is dark, I want it to be a little bit more towards the neutral greens, let's say. I'm going to use my darkest color now, which is black, and it's not a bad idea to put something, even though there's a little bit of color here, but it's always nice to put something under your hand, like a piece of paper while you're working. There's something that I want to do now before I put any more color around here, and that is just to soften that highlight. It kind of diffuses around the color. I'm wrapping up the top part of the vase with black, and I want to leave a little bit of reflected color, and I might even heighten it after I'm done with the black here, but I want that reflected edge, or at least a little bit of ambient light, to hit the pot on the side. And so I'll bring in a little bit of green, just soft them out. Reflected light, edge. So the colors that I've chosen for this part of the pot down here are parrot green, true green. Both of these are very cool greens, as you can see. And then to mix it up a little bit with a couple of warms, I've got a grass green, and then I've got a yellow green, which I may add at the very end. I did say start from lighter to darker, but that doesn't mean you can't come back in and brighten colors up at the end. I'm going to start here with my parrot green. It's the lightest green that I have. And it might not seem like the right choice yet in this one area, so I'm going to go really, really softly with it. But I want to unify it. I want to use it down here mostly. And I'll probably come in with that jade green and softly brighten up that edge of the cast shadow. You try to get the colors as close as you can, but the values are really more important. Now, having said that, you try to get the colors close, but if you got a set of 36, you're going to have to do some work to get pretty close to colors like these. But if the values are there, it should work pretty well. And actually the vase doesn't stop here. It keeps on going, so I'll bring a little bit of green and dark green down here. Probably the same colors that we used up here. Okay, so this is my yellow green. This is a grass green. Let's see what happens here. That's what I want. Yeah, that's better. So this is my dark green. Just glazing really, really softly with this dark green over the grass green. Okay, let's finish up with a cast shadow. So I've got indigo blue and black that I'm going to use again in the cast shadow. Indigo blue, dark umber, and black. Let's be consistent. Here's the dark umber over the indigo blue. It's a pretty sharp cast shadow. I want to keep it a little soft. And let's finish up with black. Black pencil is darker than black marker. So you're going to see it even on top of black marker. Okay? Alright, so I could spend another 20 minutes, half hour, just wrapping this up and pulling it all together, but I think you get the idea.